I waited 6 years for him to marry me. Then I found out the real reason why he never did. I'm 40 and have been with my boyfriend, who's 38, for 6.5 years. We've been living together for 5 of those years. My teenage son, who's now 16, lives with us too. His dad passed away when he was little, so it's been just the two of us, until my boyfriend came into the picture. From the outside, our relationship looked perfect. We laugh together, enjoy the same hobbies, and genuinely love each other's company. We're the type of couple people look at and say, wow, you two just work. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was warm, deep, and real. Even his relationship with my son, while not quite fatherly, was good. More like roommates or friends than father and son, which I didn't always love, but I made peace with it. It was good enough. Or so I thought. From the beginning, we talked about marriage and even having a child together. And every time we brought it up, I'd feel hopeful. Like it was just a matter of time before he'd propose. But last summer, everything shifted. Out of nowhere, he told me he wanted to start trying for a baby, but didn't want to get married. His exact words were, "What's the point? Nothing will really change." I was crushed. I had waited years for this man to take that next step with me, not because I needed a ring or a big wedding, but because I wanted him to show me he was fully in. That he was willing to choose me, and my son, completely. I cried for hours. And all he could say was that he was sorry, that he loved me, and that marriage just didn't matter to him like it did to me. I should have walked away then. But I didn't. I told myself love was enough. That I could move forward without a wedding, without that one moment I had been dreaming of. Because in the end, I didn't want to lose him. But then came the next curveball. I found out I can't have children the natural way anymore. We would need to go through IVF, and even then, with donor eggs. We talked about going to a clinic abroad. It's a big deal, emotionally and financially. And I told him, I can't go through something this huge with someone I'm not married to. That's when everything changed. That night, we had one of those deep, raw conversations where secrets come out, the kind where you either grow closer, or everything falls apart. And then he said it. Just one sentence. I don't want your son to inherit from me. At first, I didn't even understand what he meant. I laughed it off and said, well, of course he won't, he's not your biological child. He has his own inheritance from his dad. But the next day, it hit me. That was it. That was the real reason he never married me. Not because marriage doesn't change anything. Not because he didn't care about the paperwork. It was because he didn't want my son to have any legal rights to what he owns. And that realization broke something in me. He could have told me this years ago. We could have talked about it like adults. He could have asked me about a prenup. He could have checked the laws. But instead, he lied. 4 years. And when I confronted him about it, he wasn't the man I knew. He got cold. Distant. Almost like a stranger. And in that moment, for the first time in our relationship, I didn't recognize him anymore. Now here I am. After a long night of crying, fighting, and hearing things I never thought I'd hear. I'm sitting in silence. Wondering what I'm even doing here. Wondering if everything we built was based on half-truths and avoidance. I don't know how to move forward from this. I don't know what to believe anymore. But one thing is certain, the man I thought I knew, the one I waited for all these years, might not be who I thought he was after all. I couldn't stop replaying his words in my head. I don't want your son to inherit from me. It felt like all the love, the laughs, the plans were suddenly built on a crack that had always been there, hiding beneath the surface. A crack he never let me see. I had questions. So many questions. Had he ever truly accepted my son as part of his life? Or was he always keeping him at arm's length, just enough to seem kind, but never close enough to feel responsible? I started thinking about all the little moments I'd brushed off over the years. The way he never called my son ours. The way he stayed slightly detached from parenting decisions. The way he never brought up adopting him, even after years of living together as a family. I used to think he was just respecting boundaries. That maybe he didn't want to overstep. But now, it felt like something else. Like he had always seen us as two people, me, and my son, that came as a package he accepted, but never really claimed. And yet, he wanted to have a baby with me. Start a new chapter. With me. But not with the boy who had already been there. The boy who had been part of my heart and soul since I first held him. I started to feel sick. So I asked him, calmly at first, is this really the only reason you didn't want to marry me? Just the inheritance thing? And he said yes. Just that. But that didn't feel like the full truth. Because if it was just about the money, why not bring it up? Why not ask for a prenup? I would have signed it in a heartbeat if that's what it took. He had to know that. I've never cared about his money, I've always cared about him. And if he didn't know that by now, what did that say about how he saw me? That night, the conversation got ugly. His tone changed. Cold. Defensive. Almost angry at me for asking questions I had every right to ask. He said I was making a big deal out of nothing. That I was twisting things. That he had been honest now, and wasn't that enough? But it wasn't. It wasn't just the truth. It was the years he spent hiding it. The way he let me believe something else. The way he let me cry over thinking he didn't want to marry me, when really, he just didn't want to take legal responsibility for my child. I didn't sleep at all that night. I watched him sleep beside me, the man I thought I would grow old with, and I felt like I was lying next to a stranger. A stranger who shared my bed, my home, my life, but not my vision of family. The next day, I didn't know how to act. I was numb. I made coffee, like always. I fed the dog. I folded laundry. But inside, everything was falling apart. He tried to act normal, like nothing had happened. He even joked about something he saw online. And I realized, maybe for him, nothing had changed. But for me, everything had. I looked at my son, my bright, sweet boy who had been through enough loss already, and I thought, what happens if I stay with this man? What if we go through IVF and have a child together? Will he love that child more? Will he build walls between his new child and the one I already have? And then, what happens to me? What happens to the woman who waited 6 years, hoping for a wedding, only to find out she was never seen as a full partner? I haven't spoken to anyone about this in real life yet. Not friends. Not family. Not even my therapist. I'm scared that saying it out loud makes it more real. But I know I can't stay in this in-between place forever. I know a decision is coming. Soon. The next few days felt like I was walking through fog. He was still doing normal things, asking if I wanted tea, offering to cook dinner, sending me funny memes, like nothing had happened. Like we hadn't just pulled back the curtain on a truth that shattered everything I thought I knew. But I wasn't the same anymore. Every time I looked at him, I felt two things. Love and grief. Love for the man I spent years building a life with. And grief for the future I thought we were heading toward, the future that suddenly felt like a lie. I tried to bring it up again, gently. I told him I still didn't feel okay, that I needed to talk more about it. I was hoping he would open up more, or at least try to see how deeply this hurt me. But he shut it down. He told me, "You're overthinking. I told you the truth. Can we just move on already? Move on? Just like that?" I felt like I had been hit by a wave while he stood safely on shore. I was drowning, and he was already drying off his hands. And then it hit me, he had already moved on, because for him, this was never a big deal to begin with. He'd been living with this truth for years. But I had just found out. I was still catching my breath. Still trying to make sense of it all. And deep down, a dark, awful question started whispering in the back of my mind. If he could hide this from me, what else could he hide? It wasn't about the inheritance anymore. It wasn't even about the marriage. It was about trust. I trusted him with my heart, my child, my home, my body, my future. And now? I didn't even know if I could trust him with a simple conversation. A few nights later, we had another talk. This one wasn't planned. It just came out of me like a flood. I asked him, if we have a baby together, are you going to treat our child differently from my son? He blinked. Caught off guard. Then he said, of course not. I'll love them both. But, you know it's different. Different? My chest tightened. Different? That one word hit me like a punch. I asked him to explain. He said it's just natural to feel a different bond with a biological child. That it doesn't mean he doesn't care about my son, just that it isn't the same. And in that moment, something inside me cracked. Because I knew, no matter how much love we shared, no matter how many memories or laughs or late-night talks, we were not aligned on what family meant. Not really. And I started wondering. If he sees my son as not quite his, will he ever truly see me as fully his either? That word, different, kept echoing in my head long after our conversation ended. It haunted me. Not because I didn't know it was true on some level. I get it, he didn't raise my son from birth. He didn't watch his first steps, hear his first words, or stay up at night when he had fevers. But he's been here for the past 6 years. That's high school years, heartbreaks, growing pains, some of the most important moments in a young boy's life. And yet, after all this time, he still drew that line. Different. That word changed everything. I started noticing the distance more. The way he'd smile at my son, sure, but never go out of his way to engage unless I brought them together. The way decisions about the house, the future, finances, all centered around us, but not us three. And every time he talked about when we have a baby, it was full of excitement. But there was never a mention of blending our family deeper, of bringing my son closer, of making this thing truly whole. One night, I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling in the dark while he slept beside me. Like nothing had changed. But for me? Everything had. I realized something that broke my heart all over again. He loves me. But he doesn't love all of me. Because my son isn't just part of my life, he is my life. You can't separate us. You don't get me without him. And suddenly, I felt like a guest in my own home. A woman sharing space with a man who may have loved me deeply, but only under certain terms. A man who couldn't say yes to a lifetime commitment because he was afraid of what my son might take one day, instead of what we could build together. And then the guilt hit. Because what if I go through with the IVF? What if I bring a new baby into this world, into a home where one child is seen as real family, and the other as a legal threat? What kind of mother would I be if I allowed that? What kind of message would that send to my son? And what would that do to me? That night, I couldn't sleep again. My chest was tight. I felt like I was trapped in a life that looked perfect from the outside, but was slowly coming apart from within. The man I once thought would be my forever, the one I waited for, stood beside, believed in, had finally shown me who he truly was. And now, I had to face a truth of my own. Was I strong enough to walk away? Or scared enough to stay? In the days that followed, I moved through life like a ghost. He went on as usual. Making plans. Sending me links to baby name websites. Acting like we were still moving forward with IVF, like the conversation, the truth, the pain I was holding in, had never happened. And maybe for him, it hadn't. But for me? Something had quietly died. It wasn't just the dream of marriage. It wasn't even about the inheritance or the lies. It was something deeper, something sacred. It was my trust. I couldn't stop picturing the future. Him, holding our newborn, full of love and pride. My teenage son watching from the doorway. Knowing in his gut he wasn't seen the same way. And me, stuck between them. Trying to keep everyone together, pretending everything was okay, while silently falling apart inside. I imagined myself explaining to my son, the one I've raised, protected, and loved with everything in me, why the man we lived with for years had never seen him as truly his own. And I knew I couldn't do that to him. I couldn't do that to myself. And I definitely couldn't bring another child into that kind of divided home. So one morning, I made coffee just like always. He was in the kitchen, scrolling on his phone. I sat across from him, heart pounding, hands shaking, and said, I need to pause everything. The IVF. The baby plans. All of it. He looked up, confused. Why? We're already scheduled. You said. I stopped him. Because I've been waiting for years for you to choose me completely. And now I know you never truly did. The look on his face changed. First shock. Then defensiveness. Then silence. I told him everything. How betrayed I felt. How I could have accepted his fears if he had just been honest from the start. How it wasn't about money or marriage anymore, it was about trust, and the fact that I couldn't bring a child into a relationship built on half-truths and fear. He tried to explain. He said he loved me. That he still wanted us to be a family. But his version of family had limits. And mine didn't. And that's when I realized. Love isn't just about how someone treats you when things are easy. It's about how they stand beside you when things are complicated. And whether they're brave enough to choose all of you, even the parts that come with history, and heartache, and a child that isn't theirs. I packed a bag that night and took my son to my sister's place. Just for a few days, I said. But I knew deep down. I wasn't going back. It still hurts. I still love him. But I love my son more. I love me more. And I know now, I don't need a man to complete my family. I already have one. If you've ever loved someone who couldn't love all of you, you're not alone. And if you're standing at a crossroads, afraid to choose yourself, please hear this. Choosing yourself is never a mistake. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done? Would you have stayed and tried to work it out, or walked away too? Subscribe for more real-life stories, raw, honest, and unforgettable.